One great thing about living in Monmouth County is that you have access to so many things, including the fact that there's a lot of places you can go to for rehab, and that's a good thing. But let's say you have some very special needs, something unique. You want to observe your religious holidays, your culture, maybe you're kosher, maybe English isn't even your first language. You want to be in a place where all of your mind, body, spirit, and medical issues are all going to be addressed under one roof. And you might think, well, that's impossible. Where will I find such a place? Well, our guest today is going to tell us exactly where you're going to find such a place in Monmouth County. So stay tuned and you'll find out where. Hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Scan FYI. Hey, Mary Beth.
Good morning, Andrea. How are you this morning?
I'm good. I'm good today. Yep. Fresh off my bingo run from yesterday, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
So I'd like to go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, we'll talk more about bingo after we introduce our guest.
So I would like to say good morning to Sara Kohn from our Jewish home in Freehold. Good morning, Sara.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Sara.
Thank you for being with us today.
The honor is mine. Thank you for having me on.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about what is the Jewish home and what do you do there?
Sure. So the Jewish home is a 3-year-old facility on Route 537 in Freehold, right past Central State. Initially, the Jewish home was open for patients of the Jewish faith or any relation to someone of the Jewish faith. So before COVID, our doors were, open to a very specific need, like a faith-based facility. And it was built with that need in mind. So when you enter our building, we have a temple synagogue upon, entry to the building. We have a rabbi presence here 7 days a week, and our facility is a kosher facility. We do have patients, and interestingly, a lot has changed, obviously, with COVID. We now are open to any denomination. All are welcome, all are able to be admitted. But there is definitely a strong tie to the Monmouth County Jewish population. We do have a lot of retired Jewish residents from the Monroe area. We definitely see, during times of need, when people aren't feeling good, or they're, struggling and they're just not, they need the care. A lot of times they look towards their faith and to God. And this is a unique opportunity, a facility where they have that all in one spot. So you have the rabbi here, he's here 7 days a week. All the holidays are celebrated. We have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Passover's here. We have all the traditional foods. So every Friday night you have a Shabbat dinner. We have Friday night dinner. We have Saturday. The rabbi does, currently the synagogue is closed, but he does room visits and he does services in the room. We have the Yiskor services when needed. So there's so much, and again, we have a variety of, Jewish, we have Reformed, Conservative, Orthodox, a very large mix Sephardic population from the Jersey Shore area, but everyone is welcome. We do offer, compassion visits. We do have our memory care. So the Jewish home is a long-term subacute and memory care unit. We have 3 floors. Our first floor is memory care. Now that population is extremely unique because we have a lot of Holocaust survivors, and their dementia is very different than the typical dementia that you see out there. They're trauma-based dementia. Their behaviors are different. What they've been through are different. Therefore, we bring a trainer in from Brooklyn. Her name is Leah from an organization, Zikaron, which is the Hebrew word of memory. And she educates the staff from a Holocaust perspective. For example, if you have Alzheimer's dementia, you typically want to talk about the past, and they go back to their youth. In this situation, you don't want to talk about it. It wasn't a happy time, and it brings back errors. So we train our staff culturally, and they have a better understanding of what a shower means to some of our residents. when you bring the food to them, how they react. Sometimes they're afraid they're being poisoned, the paranoia. So that it's really a unique population. We have special activities. We created a little shopping boutique for some of our residents, and we have a baby's nursery for them. So really cute 30-bed unit. Our second floor is our subacute unit. Those are all private suites, so individualized showers and bedrooms for our rehab unit. Fortunately, during COVID, we were a resource for all the hospital systems because many facilities weren't able to accommodate COVID patients. We fortunately were able to keep our doors open throughout and actually run a secure unit just for COVID with a separate elevator and staff. Phenomenal program where we were able to admit over 230 patients that were safely discharged home. And then our third floor is our long-term care. So definitely a large, I'd say our census is about 50-50. We have a really strong, like I said, Jewish faith going over here. And interestingly enough, we noticed the need for opening a Russian program. So I learned, so I'm from Ocean County, but I now work in Monmouth County. And I learned that from Freehold all the way up through Old Bridge, very large Russian population. Initially, we identified about 9 patients that were Russian. Now we're up to 15. Again, just like the Jewish culture, Russian culture is so different. So it's a language barrier, it's food culture, it's activity, it's there's so much that I can learn from any faith and any culture. I love learning different beliefs, faiths, and I like to understand it. So understanding the Russian culture was something new to us. And we therefore brought on a Russian liaison. Slav is in our building, translating, acting as concierge to the patients, to the families. Physicians need that translator to talk to the patients, to be there. He's there for them. We have Russian physicians. We're hiring Russian nursing staff as well as activities. And we're hiring a Russian chef as well. So we're slowly putting this program together. We really have tremendous outcomes, but again, it's you have to do it with everything. You have to have the food, and I don't understand it because I didn't grow up that way. I grew up Orthodox Jewish in Michigan, but I'm learning. I wish I knew the language. The Russian language is fascinating to me, but that's why we have Slav. We have in everyone's room we have 150 Russian TV channels. We have a key with the words. So like with the nurses in the room and they want to understand what they're saying, we have keywords so that they can understand that. So we really are exploring, we try to dig deeper when we see the population that we have here in our building so that they have the optimum care because, besides the clinical care, which we have physician oversight and specialty programs, we have cardiologists here, we have orthopedists here, we have nephrologists here. We have, geriatricians here. We have so many different infectious disease doctors. We have the clinical piece, but there's more to that. There's more to getting better in a place that really understands the culture and can help you recuperate in an environment that you are most comfortable in. So of course, there's no place like home, but if you're going to have to be in a facility, the Jewish home is a facility that we try to resemble and mimic as best as we can from what you were, used to growing up in the community.
Well, I think it's interesting what you're saying about, when someone isn't well and many people turn to their spiritual side. And in a typical rehab situation, that is really not addressed.
Right.
And if it happens to be Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, or any holiday, Friday night for that matter, none of that is addressed. So if you have a strong spiritual side, then you're not going to get that in a traditional rehab setting.
Correct.
But obviously, you have a very special niche there, catering to that. And it's like your mind, body, spirit, which I find really interesting.
That all helps in the healing process.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And
that's
the rabbi is, the spiritual leader here. He's the director of pastoral care. He does go to many hospitals as well as a chaplain. But, being that person that's there and supporting the families and being there, whether it's a challenging diagnosis that they've just been given, or if it's an end of life situation, or if it's, family dynamics or the grieving process, they have someone that they connect with and that's able to put the tefillin straps on them and that's able to do the prayers that they're accustomed to. And we see it over and over. I mean, I'm getting patients from as far as Brooklyn and from literally all walks of life, and that just the fact that they know that they can have the rabbi's presence here 7 days a week is huge.
Well, I'm sure that, that would be very comforting for anyone in that, again, having your spiritual needs met, your dietary restrictions adhered to,
Yeah.
all of that, that's about as home-like as you could get without being at home. And I could always hear, my grandma years ago when she had to be in a rehab area, a rehab place, and all she wanted to know was, are they kosher? Because, in her word, you want to be, among your own, among people who get who you are and what you're doing, and not in a typical rehab setup. So I find this unique program to just be a really special opportunity for people to take advantage of.
Yeah. And in fact, we had a patient that wasn't of the Jewish faith. She was actually Catholic. She wrote a beautiful testimonial.
Well, how did she sneak in?
She absolutely, and the highest praise, she said, besides the rehab and the kosher food that was excellent, she said the fact that there was a rabbi here, even though she's of the Catholic faith, she felt comforted because the rabbi came in and did blessings with her, and she felt like it helped her through the healing process. So, any spiritual leader,
Of course.
I mean, but, that she felt that, he really cared about her and he prayed for her, and that helped her get out so much sooner. So, it's really a beautiful facility. And again, all faiths are welcome, and we welcome any spiritual leaders here, but we do have the 7-day-a-week rabbi on the kosher food and the holiday services here.
I think it's also very interesting to know, as you did note about that the Holocaust survivors who would be in the dementia unit, that's a traumatic situation. And yeah, typically with dementia, you want to return to those your younger years, but clearly these folks don't, because that's all based in trauma. But now the people who work, your staff, I'm thinking they all have to be specially trained as well. This is just not for everyone.
Correct. So that's why once a month, Leah from this organization, Zikaron, comes to our building and educates the staff. And, we've had situations where we've had to call her with ideas or suggestions if they're resistant to certain things, because it's not a redirection that's easy. It's not something that is typical behaviors that you see with dementia. It's atypical behaviors. And, it gets progressively worse. I personally had a grandmother who was a Holocaust survivor and had the horrible, the end of life was awful to watch because that's all she relived. I mean, everyone was after her. The paranoia was, not a pretty thing. And, it takes a staff that's compassionate, that can not walk in their shoes, but kind of, we went through what were the terrors that they went through, and interestingly enough, the Russian population that we have are also war survivors, and they went through their own wars and their own terrors. So we do have 4 Russian patients on memory care, and they have their own challenges. So it's explaining to them that culture. It's really it's really cool. It's unique to see how and education. The Alzheimer's Association, I'm a board member with them. I bring, we work with Rabbi Cohn, and we really, education is key, whether it's the staff, whether it's the community, our activities department. Really understanding where they're coming from and what moves them and what to stay away from. How do you redirect them properly? How do you make it better for them when, their past was just so awful?
Well, you're catering to some very specific needs here that a lot of people, who even some of our listeners, might not understand it at all. And that's okay. I would I would encourage you to, and we'll post all the contact info for the Jewish Home, but I would encourage you to look at their website, which I did, and I found it very interesting to see all of the things that you do offer for people. Again, catering to a very specific clientele, but technically you're still interdenominational.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, and I look at myself as a resource for those that don't understand. I've been able to do education at Encompass, both in Tinton Falls and Toms River. I've done education over at Jersey Shore, at Central State. People have questions. They want to understand the faith better. They want to understand the whys and the why nots. And I think that helps with, when I have families from our facility, patients that are going over to the hospitals and they want to understand, did we do it right? What are we supposed to do? Why are they wearing that? How can they wear that? What should we do? What can we do differently? Obviously end of life conversations are different, palliative care conversations. So, there's so much that everybody can learn. I'm happy to be a resource. So, put my contact information up there.
Right.
If anybody wants me to come in and do education, I'd be happy to. And talk more about the Jewish Home and how we can service the different communities at large in Monmouth County to help serve the senior population during their time of.
Sarah, can people come in for a tour?
Yeah, we are offering tours. Obviously, we have certain amounts of visitation at any given time. So we'd have to schedule that for ahead of time.
All right, because one of the things that, that we've always talked about here, Mary Beth, is you want to know all this stuff before you would ever need to have it, because in the heat of the moment, you're not going to remember. You're not going to think, oh, the Jewish Home, that's the place for me, for my mom, for my grandma. So it's always good to check these things out in advance so that, knowledge is power, and you want to know what your resources are if you live in the area.
Correct. And unfortunately, I've heard it all too often. How come I didn't know about you? How come I never heard about you? I didn't know there was a kosher facility. Right. Here I am out in so-and-so facility, and the food isn't what I'm, and then they have to transfer. So rather do the research before, understand what your resources are. I always say to the seniors that I educate about how they have a medication card with them at any given time. On that medication card, put down your facilities of choices, research them before, so that when you're in the hospital and you're, or you're in a time of need and it's the 9th hour and it's like, okay, well, here's where I want to go. I've done my research.
Wow. That's a great idea, right? Mary Beth, we might have to borrow that idea to share. Yeah, that really makes sense. In the heat of the moment, most people are just not running at full capacity. You're not thinking clearly.
Yeah.
So that's
kind of too late at that point. When you're laying in the hospital bed, it's almost too late. I try to be able to reach out to the families and explain to them what we do have available at that time. But again, it's usually after the fact, the social worker, or where, God forbid you're at home and you need to put someone in. So we do respite stays, right? Our Alzheimer's, our memory care unit can tell you how many respite stays we've done through, COVID and the decline that they've seen and the break that they need. Imagine the programs have all been shut down for so long and their families are just losing their mind at times and they just need a break. So definitely do your research before so that when that time comes, at least you have all your ducks in a row.
Right. Because if you don't make your own choice, the choice is going to get made for you. And it might not be what makes you happy. So now, you know what, before Sarah, before we wrap up, we have to mention bingo.
Yeah.
Now, I had a great opportunity yesterday, thanks to Sarah, to be the guest bingo caller. I guess that's what I'll call it, the guest bingo caller. That was a first for me. I really enjoyed myself. That was at Jersey Shore Medical Center in Neptune. But Sarah, just explain what that whole program is, because I think it's marvelous.
So we named it now the Jersey Shore Bingo Club. Initially, it started through the power of prayer, actually. During COVID, I had delivered gowns that the Jewish Home and Marquee Health had donated to the hospital. And Michael Rafter, who's the director of volunteer services, approached me and said, would you happen to know a rabbi? Because they were streaming prayer services through their chapel. They have a TV camera mounted, and it went into the patient's rooms through COVID. And they definitely noticed that people were reacting to the power of prayer. So I brought the rabbi from the Jewish home to do a prayer service. And there happened to be a bingo cage laying around. And Michael said, hey, you know, how about once this is, you know, this is past us, we can start doing bingo in the patient's rooms, because, you know, patients are laying there all day and it's a long day and it's
Pretty
hard.
boring. Yeah.
You're boring, you're in pain, you won't need some distraction, something busy. And therefore we started this bingo club. It started with one floor. And as soon as the one floor kicked off, like the following week, it was 2 floors, and now it's like throughout the hospital. So over 200 patients are playing. And it's really cool how the volunteers go to the room, deliver the boards before the game. I try to bring in guest bingo callers, because typically I'm the bingo queen. I've been doing bingo for 17 years, but I love when someone else can do it. So, you know, I invite guests, and Andrea was, you know, really honored to have you, to finally meet you. We've had, you know, senators, etc. But yeah, we call bingo, goes to the rooms. Patients then call the chapel phone when they have a bingo.
That was great.
And then we deliver the prizes, and Andrea so graciously donated a gift card. So we really appreciate any donations we can get. And really, it's really made so many people's lives happier in the hospital. I mean, the patient feedback is wonderful, but even more so, I mean, I've heard patients calling down from dialysis to have their boards brought to them. Radiology, one woman wouldn't go to her test until she was able to play bingo. I had a pediatric patient, he wouldn't discharge until he came to the chapel and called bingo. So, I mean, it's really changed. I mean, like Michael says, what hospital in the world are you laying in bed playing bingo at 1 o'clock on a Monday? So it's awesome. It's really a great initiative, and it's proven to make the patients feel better. One patient said, you know, it was an hour that it took her mind off her pain. So
Right. It's
And
a great distraction.
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
Very nice.
Well, Sara Kohn from the Jewish Home for Rehabilitation in Freehold, and I'll put all the contact info out there. Don't worry about any of that, guys. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure meeting all of you, and working together with you in the future.
I think we all had something that we could all learn about, and I bet a lot of people, including me, didn't understand that there was such a unique facility in our area. Definitely. So remember, if it's important to you, it's important to us. I'm Andrea Tarr. We'll see you next time on Scan FYI. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Sara. Thank you.
Bye, Sara.
Thank you.